Hey, congratulations, you just graduated from high school. You're probably feeling pretty good about yourself. You were the top of your class academically, you were the leader of countless clubs around campus, and you were even your high school starting quarterback. You need to start thinking about your future. As a student athlete, you're probably thinking about which big name university is going to give me the most playing time. But what if I told you that all your hard work, time, and effort that you spent at that university, you won't see a single dollar outside of your tuition costs or any kind of compensation through scholarships? Hi, my name is Ethan Donnelly, and today I'll be trying to persuade you into agreeing with me on the fact that I believe that student athletes should be paid. Too many times we see young, bright, and talented high school students want to enter college and play at a college level, only to realize that none of their time spent there will be compensated in any form of dollar amount. While they're given, merchandise to play in on their teams or publicity just through the games alone, they won't see a single cent and through salary or any kind of other compensation. My first example is from a College Sports Madness article entitled "The Top 10 Reasons College Athletes Should Be Paid," published in February of last year. Quote, they said, salaries could help players invest in their futures. What they're trying to address here is the fact that not all college athletes end up in the big leagues. That would just be crazy. The amount of students filtering into the NBA, for example. The amount of students, the percentage of students that go from high school to college is very slim, and it's even slimmer going from college to the NBA. Salaries could help these students invest in their future beyond college. Not all students go to college for the experience. They go for developing their skill or their sport of choice. If inevitably, if they get hurt or eventually drop out, they have nothing to show for it money-wise for their time spent at the university beyond maybe some credits that they've accomplished from their time there. I know in the NBA they have a rule called the one and done rule, where they require any young players that want to come into the league, they must be at least 19 years old and they must attend a university for at least 1 year. This is usually the case for, breakout stars, people like Lonzo Ball or Zion Williamson, who are good enough that they bring that attraction in 1 year alone and can skip the college process and go straight into the NBA. My second reason I believe they should be paid is to shift the power dynamic. Big schools are obsessed with sports enough to the point that it's become their top priority over almost all other sections of education. In a 2005 book entitled "Changing the Playbook: How Power, Profit, and Politics Transformed College Sports," it was written by Howard Shodakoff. He explains how the power dynamic is way too centered over the expectancy of how well college athletes do at their universities. Profit, they don't pay these college athletes, and the college scene and budget is well over and into the billions. The politics usually involves the regulations that stuff like the NCAA has in restricting agents coming forward and getting into their big universities. There's a 3-step plan that he highlighted in this book. He said, number one, they want more money so that they can spend more. This deals with the budget mainly at big universities. The more money they can rake in through revenue through media or just publicity, the more they can spend on their prized possession, their sports programs. Number two, they need more money because their competition is just as wealthy. You see these examples in when smaller universities try to compete with bigger universities. Big universities such as Ohio State, Syracuse, LSU, UCLA. They have that kind of public attention and publicity that just comes with the name of the college, and they kind of need to shift that in order to allow smaller universities just the chance at nailing some of these bigger players. And then finally, number three, it's pretty long, but it's also very insightful. He says, caught in a spiral where they need more money because they think it'll help them win, and they need to win because they think success on the field will bring in more money. And that just shows, the obsessions that these college campuses have with these sports programs. The more money they have, the more they can offer, publicity and programs to showcase their players. But they also need to win big championships and big games in order to make that money and stay in the public image a lot more. My third reason that I believe that college athletes should be paid is that they make schools money and they provide huge exposure. One of the biggest examples was in 1984 for Boston College. Their starting quarterback was Doug Flutie. For this example, he threw a Hail Mary pass to win against the University of Miami, and it showcased a huge surge in applications by 30%. So people saw this huge event on TV, and they said that has a great sports program. Not only regular students that want to apply increased, but the desire for college athletes to go to schools like that also increased. And if you can see increase like that, the budget and the huge money that school draws in has to be tremendous. This article was entitled, Should College Athletes Be Paid? Written by Mark Drozdowski in 2021. I believe it was in March. And so he highlights that Boston College instance, but he also says that when a mediocre team rises to a level of great, applications as well as increase in revenue can be seen at 18.7%. And when a team increases their win percentage by just 5 in a year, alumni donations can even increase up to 30% as well. This just shows you how revolved the sports world is at big universities. You see that it's become, the central draw to get students here. Of course, big universities, especially in California, beyond UCLA, their teams aren't too good at big D1 sports. And they also don't have, the big names of some of the schools out towards the eastern states, and any kind of New York or Syracuse or Louisiana really stress heavily on how well they can improve their sports programs. What is being done about this in current news? For instance, in California, Governor Newsom, I believe a couple years ago in 2019, he put through the Fair to Play Act, in which he would enable college athletes at schools earning more than $10 million in annual media revenue to make money through their likenesses, through their ways of choice, and hire agents without being ineligible. The biggest thing a player can face is ineligibility when it comes to trying to reserve a spot at a big university. If they receive any kind of payment or any kind of promise of payment or any kind of merchandising, they're no longer eligible to play in a college sports program. This was heavily seen and showcased in the case of LaMelo Ball, who is attending Chino Hills High School. His father opened up their own brand entitled Big Baller Brand, in which him and his two brothers were basketball players who had their own shoes, merchandising deals, and basically a company that allowed for them to take 100% profit. He was then ineligible to play college ball in the United States and was forced to go play in the league in Lithuania overseas. If college athletes were at least compensated for their time at these universities, they'd see that, eligibility wouldn't be as big as a factor, and they could actually think about, maintaining financial stability while they're also attending these big universities, because they give full-time effort when they're in these universities. Playing for sports is a full-time job. It not only hinders your freedom, but it also hinders your access and your capability in achieving, your academic studies if you intend to stay for more than just 1 year. Overall, I strongly agree with all three of my points, addressing the fact that college athletes should be paid. While it's usually highlighted on students that have exceptional abilities that rise through the ranks and commit that 1 year to schools, that's usually far beyond from the case. Students, usually take these scholarships because it cuts into their tuition costs at the end of the year. They can continue playing their sport, which they probably love to do since they were small or just very talented in general, and it just gets them that exposure going